Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Ain't Dying for This, a Black woman's guide to liberation. My name is Crystle Johnson. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the founder and retreat host at Design Your Soft Life. My mission is to help Black women who are saving the world save themselves first. So I hope that there are folks who are listening in the chat, and if you are, we would love to hear from you. Christen Smiley and I, who's our guest today, would love to hear from you in the chat. Please tell us where you are listening in from. If you are team live or team hashtag team replay. And then, of course, share this live with a Black woman that you think might benefit from the conversation. We'll be checking the chat periodically throughout the conversation, but again, would love to hear from you and see you cheering us on in the chat. Also, to make sure that we're actually live. We should be live. So I started this show, We Ain't Dying for This, a live series, because Black women are literally dying under the stress and weight of all the things that we're taking on. And a lot of us are chasing liberation. I know that for me, I've been chasing liberation for a long time. But when I thought about liberation, it felt like this big, unattainable thing. So what we hope to achieve through this show is for you all to see like all the different ways you can feel liberation. You may not feel it like in the big way that we all talk about it usually, but there are ways that you can have glimpses of liberation. So with that being said, today's show is about embracing change as liberation. And I posted earlier, I reposted something that you posted, Christen, where I was like, unless you're living under a rock, probably going through some kind of change. And if that's the case, hopefully you are here, whether you're here live or you're listening to the replay. We really hope that this content or this conversation tonight does resonate with you. And want to call out a few people that have actually popped into the chat. So we got Macy in Seattle, Joy in LA, and Leandra in Portland. Okay, Portland. Good to hear from y'all in the chat. So, Christen, welcome, girl. I'm so glad that you're here. You and I talked earlier this week for a vibe session. And even though we talked for a real long time, I know your sister was probably like, girl, get off the phone. We had a good conversation. And I'm so glad to have you here on the show. So tell everybody who you are, what you do.
All that good stuff. Okay, well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Crystle. I am so excited to be here. I have been a fan of this show since you started it. I'm all the way here for getting to our liberation. So a little bit about me. My name is Christen Smiley. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am actually the founder and chief equity officer and communication architect for LunarWorks Consulting. I smooth launched that consulting business very recently. I have worked professionally for lengthy periods of time in both the PR and communication space, as well as the DEI space. Hence, my consulting firm focuses on that sweet spot between DEI and communications and really bridging the gap between the two. And aside from all of that, I am absolutely team rest, team design your soft life, team lighten the load, all of those things. I reside in Durham, North Carolina, and recently moved a month ago to North Carolina. And I'm elated to be here and just excited to share with everyone, excited to connect with you all, excited to have this good conversation and basically take our vibe session to the people. So elated and excited to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. And to speak about change, like as you just said, you just moved to Durham, and that's a move. Any move is a move, but moving states is a lot.
Absolutely.
I have done way too many state moves. I'm from Virginia, as you know, but I have since 2016 lived in Michigan. I've lived in Colorado. I've lived in California, and I've been in Texas since 2019. So think like all those places over the course of 3 years. And it wasn't even a total of, well, I guess it was three. It was like mid 2016 to mid 2019. So 3 years, but it was overwhelming. Just know if anybody's listening and you're like thinking about a comp package that a company wants to pay you, they need to pay for your full move. Don't let
Full.
them don't let them give you a stipend. That's free tea right there.
Take it. Take it. Absolutely. I mean, relocation in of itself, like you said, is such a transition, right? Like I was in Atlanta, Georgia before I moved to Durham, North Carolina. And even Atlanta, Georgia, I was in Atlanta for 8 years, which is literally the longest I've lived anywhere consecutively in my life because I'm a military kid.
Yeah.
So I'm used to hopping around every 3 to 4 years. I'm very comfortable with that. But as you grow in your journey and as you get older, some of the things that you really love and what you're looking for when you get to a place is community, and that aspect is always so important. So when you're relocating, it is that aspect of you definitely have your extended community because we're amazing at that. Social media, the platforms, LinkedIn Lives, I mean, it's a beautiful way to create community. And then you also are thinking, oh, I'm going to have new community as well. So it's almost like being the new kid as an adult. I'm grateful that I have a lot of experience in that, but it still dredges up that aspect of like, oh my goodness. So who am I going to meet? What are we going to do? What do I want to get in? What communities, micro communities are here that I want to get involved in? So even that relocation process, and that's not even getting into unpacking the boxes. Okay. And getting used to waking up in the middle of the night and not knowing where you are, but then remembering where you are. I've had a couple of those moments as well. So just thinking about that aspect of, listen, I woke up like, where am I? Okay, I know where I'm at. I'm in my home. Okay, got it. The new one. So even thinking about what that takes to upend, the life that you knew, to relocate somewhere else and finding all of your connection points. If you're someone who's like, oh, I need to get my hair done, for me it's who's cutting this head. Where are my go-to shops, where are my go-to stores, where are my go-to services, where am I getting these nails and toes done? All of that is all changing in the midst of the relocation. So it's like also a change in routine too. So it has been a journey, a welcomed journey. And still I was reminded after having lived in Atlanta for 8 years, although I moved within Atlanta in that 8 years,
Yeah.
that crossed the state, I said, okay, I remember this. This is
So before we jump fully into the conversation, just want to say hello from, I'm assuming this is Dr. Haley Haywood because saying hello, fangirling from Massachusetts, but it's LinkedIn user, but I'm
right.
that's our good sis, Dr. Haley Haywood. So hey girl. And
Hey girl, hey.
to Dan and anyone else who's listening. Again, if you just joined, let us know where you're listening in from. And if you are hashtag team live or hashtag team replay. And then of course, why are they hiding your name?
I don't know why.
Exactly.
But
And
now
then
we know it's you, so it's okay.
we do. You're the only one that we know in Massachusetts. So we knew it had to be you, friend. And then, of course, if you are enjoying this conversation or if the topic that you think another Black woman might benefit from, please go ahead and share this live with her. So let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
So when we think about change, usually it's real negative. It's never positive when we think about it. Because a lot of times it feels like a jolt. It feels like something that you weren't expecting. And those things don't feel good. And I know that you and I have talked recently about like me losing people in my life abruptly, not through death, but just through them exiting my life for one reason or another. Those things are really hard. And it takes time to really figure out like what is the gift in all of this. It takes a while for you to go through those stages of grief, to get to the point where you're like, okay, well, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought it was. So talk a little bit about the myths around change.
Ooh, this is a good one. So, like you said, change for so many of us, even those of us that grew up within the midst of change, it is so jarring. And again, it comes with such a negative connotation of, again, uprooting routines, uprooting familiarity, finding new resources, all of those things. And also just the fear of the unknown is so real and it's valid, right? It's valid to be intimidated by what you do not yet know, especially when it comes to life's ebbs and flows. And so change is really a big topic for people, and not people, just also businesses. I mean, there are entire departments focused on change management. Your whole role is to manage the change. So if companies know well enough that for the time that their employees are with them, when there's a big change, they need to usher people through that. We already know that change automatically is something that brings up anxiety, brings up fear, brings up different just emotions that can tend to bubble over and impact your everyday life as well as your professional life. So when I think about the myths of change, I think about that and just how jarring it can be and how upsetting it is for so many people. And I, again, fortunate enough to have grown up the way that I did, and also just in the midst of life, like you said, there's been changes abound, because change is something that we all experience, and change is one of the only things that is inevitably going to happen over time. Like, change is a constant. It just is. And so I'm a firm believer in learning how to embrace that change, like learning how to work with that change, learning to see change as an opportunity, because the other part about change is its evolution. And you get to kind of think about that perspective of, oh my gosh, everything is changing. Well, everything is evolving, and things evolving and evolution is in of itself growth and expansion. Now, don't get me wrong. They call them growing pains for a reason. And I have felt them often and many, many times over. Growing pains are so real. And also, growth is expansion. And change is part of that process, right? So when we think about change and something is shifting, it means that inevitably you're growing and you are evolving, and the world is evolving. And it's such a gift to be able to evolve with the world around you, even when that world around you doesn't feel great in that moment.
Yes.
What is created in that process in you is going to benefit you in the long term in such beautiful ways, right? Like, going through that process in and of itself, you're going to develop new skills, new abilities, new perspectives, if you allow yourself to lean into what change truly is, which is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity to learn new things, and even learn new things about yourself, how you handle change, how you navigate change, who is your support system in change. Sometimes change is the catalyst for those relationships we were talking about that do evolve out of your life. And when that does happen, it's so important to flow with it, to allow it to happen. Because when we try to hold on, what we're really trying to hold on to is stagnation. It feels like familiarity, and there's nothing wrong with something being familiar. But when it's time for things to change and we hold on to it, now you're holding on to stagnant energy that's going to have you feeling stuck or in the exact same place that you were 5, 10, 15 years ago. And again, because I'm such a fan of growth, in spite of the growing pains, I've never had an experience where change happened where I didn't learn an immense amount about myself, an immense amount about the world around me, and an immense amount about my capabilities and my support system. So I really am a big proponent of leaning into change as an opportunity and looking at it as such. This is an opportunity for me to grow. This is an opportunity for me to be resilient. This is an opportunity for me to be adaptable and flexible, because that is so necessary in our personal lives and our professional lives, because we all see what's going on in the professional world right now, in the world right now, right? So flexibility, adaptability, being able to embrace change and flow with it is so incredibly important. And it's okay to acknowledge that it's scary. It's okay to acknowledge that you're intimidated. It's okay to acknowledge that you feel really big feelings about whatever that change may be, whether it's people coming in and out of your life, whether it's job issues, whether it's layoffs, whether it is evolving into just a different version of yourself. It's okay and healthy to acknowledge, I have big feelings about this. It's just so important not to stay in those big feelings and let that take over the experience. And what the lesson is in this, that is in that change process, right? Like sitting back and saying, what is here for me to learn?
Yes.
There's something here for me to learn. What is that? And going down that path.
Yeah, for sure. You made me think about a couple of things as you were speaking. One of the things I'm going to talk about the last thing I thought about first. So I had a podcast a while ago and it was called Read My Lipstick because I'm like a red lip girly and you're a red lip girly as well.
Clearly.
So I had a guest on, and Tiffany, if you are listening, girl, don't hate me because I can't remember your last name right now, but her name is Tiffany and she lives on the East Coast.
Okay.
And she's so bubbly. She has great energy. And one of the things that she said during the episode is that her pastor would say, don't cry past Tuesday. Mm. And when you said don't stay there, it made me think about that because yes, you can feel however it is that you got to feel, like get the feelings out. We're not saying, don't feel anything because you should feel something, but you can't stay there. And that made me think about don't cry past Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I think it's like a profound thing. I don't know if he made it up, if it's like a book or what, but it is definitely something that I think about often when I am going through change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is that aspect of not getting into a state of paralysis in the change. Because again, it's not easy. Change is not easy by any means, way, shape, or form. Like you said, it's so important to not get stuck in it and also express how you're feeling in healthy ways and in ways in which you're able to reach out to your support system and say, this is how you can support me through this change, but know that you're going to keep moving forward in that change.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And we love a good analogy.
We do. We love one. We do.
We love a good analogy. So I was sharing with you that what was I doing? So I love like finding videos on Instagram, and anybody who follows me knows that I like post videos from Instagram all the time.
You have a skill. Let's just call it what it is. All right. You have an adept skill at finding the perfect video for the message. I'm still trying to learn and be like you. But
yes. What's so funny is the day that I was looking for a video for this episode, I couldn't find one. So then I like typed in #change in Instagram, which I never do because normally like my timeline is all the things that I want to see. Mm-hmm. So when I looked up #change, there was this video in there of this guy talking to this woman. I think he was a hairstylist and she was like under the dryer. And I guess they were talking about change. And she was saying that she grows trees inside of her home. Mm-hmm. The trees that she grows inside her home will die if she does not stress them. So if she isn't like moving them and doing stuff to them, then they will die because they are stagnant, as you mentioned, and they just don't have the ability. They're not strong enough to actually survive if they're not stressed. Is in comparison to the trees that are outside, and those trees grow and thrive because they are constantly under stress. They're constantly under stress from the sun, the wind, the rain, the snow, all the things. So they thrive outside. Mm-hmm. So in the house, like I said before, she has to stress them in order for them to survive. So I thought that was a really profound analogy.
Yes. And I loved it when we talked about it before, because when you said that, it reminds me of just the beauty of how many lessons are in nature. And yes, I'm one of those people that is like, listen, all the answers are right here for us in nature. We just need to know to look for them. So when you shared it, I was thinking it's such a beautiful lesson because that truth is so accurate, right? Like if a tree isn't able to be in a position to withstand stress, withstand things and learn to adapt. and learn how to grow in spite of and
Yes.
through and forward in the stress, then they're just not strong enough to survive. And I think that that is such a poignant example, and grateful to the trees for the lesson. Okay, because the same is true for people, right? I mean, if you've never been in a position of change, I mean, imagine how jarring and jolting and difficult it can be to experience that for the first time later on down the line, and not knowing what to do because you haven't developed skills and coping mechanisms and methods to navigate through what that stress feels like. So it then is a completely jarring experience that is more impactful in a negative way than it needs to be, or that it maybe could be, as a result of just not being prepared because you haven't experienced change, before in your life. So I loved that analogy, and I loved the lesson from the trees, about just really what is the importance of it, and also what is stress, right? I mean, even when we think about the weather patterns or the seasons or the creatures that are out, I mean, those are natural occurring events. Change is a naturally occurring event that happens in our lives, and it's our job. Like, you better click the pin. Change is a naturally occurring event in our lives. It is in our best interest to learn how to thrive in the midst of that and how to withstand that, so we're able to navigate through it, because change ain't going nowhere. It's not going nowhere. Okay, it is here to stay. And so it's in our best interest to learn how to navigate through that in a healthy and positive way.
Yeah, totally. So we're about to get in your business a little bit.
Okay, that's fine.
So
do my hair toss. Okay.
What's happening in your life right now that you would like to share in terms of change?
Okay. Well, one of the beautiful things about change. So what I could share and what I'm willing to share, because again, it is about creation of community. And I know that there is someone out there who's either team live or who's later going to be on team replay who's going to need to hear this. And so I am here to share. So recently in my life, what has been going on, in addition to the relocation that we were discussing earlier, my fiance and I, we relocated to Durham, North Carolina from Atlanta, Georgia. And when I say recently, I mean like we haven't been there a month yet. So there's still things to get set up and things to get settled and all of those things. But in addition to that, I am in the wave of folks who work within DEI and have worked within DEI for quite some time for large corporations whose role was eliminated. So I wasn't impacted by the tech layoffs. I was impacted by the wave of DEI layoffs and role eliminations. And it came, quite honestly, at a time that was incredibly stressful because we were in the middle of moving. And as everyone knows, when it comes to moving, it's not a short or inexpensive process to move states, right? And when you are accustomed to being in a full-time employee role and having that bi-weekly or monthly, depending on what industry you're in, check coming in, you make plans and you make forward plans. So I had made future plans, sitting in what I perceive to be job security, which I know job security is technically not really a thing, but we know when you're in a position where you're like, all the boxes and all the things around me state that everything is good. So getting that news in the middle of moving was incredibly stressful. And then thinking about what is then next, right? Because right now within diversity, equity, and inclusion, professionally speaking, it is a rough terrain out there right now. There are companies that are still fully committed and hiring and different things and expanding. And then there are companies that are like, all right, well, this was cute. We're going to pack this up and we're good. We're good. Okay. So it has become this landscape that is very volatile and it's changing constantly. I mean, I know I am one of so many DEI practitioners and professionals whose roles were eliminated. And I've been in this game for a minute, for over 10 years working in DEI alone. So it was something that was definitely a surprise, definitely a huge shift in my life. And even in that moment when I got the news, my first thought, honestly, in that moment, as I was sitting looking shocked, because let me tell you one fun fact. So These lovely glasses I have on are part of my work frames that I have. And some of my work frames block my eyes. And that's on purpose when I'm feeling real tired and I'm on a Zoom call and I'm like, child, don't have it. But I wore the ones you could see my face. So I was looking real crazy in the face when I was learning what was happening. And then, in that moment, though, I was able to take a second and sit back and I said, okay, all right. And, whether you refer to higher powers as universe, God, spirit, all those things, ancestral guidance, all of those, I said, okay, to my spirit. I said, there's something here that you want me to learn. There's something here for me to take from this. There's something for me to learn and to pick up the nuggets and the gems that are here and leave the rest. That's one of the biggest things that I could advise when there are shifts like that are happening, especially when it comes to jobs and roles. Take the gems, leave the rest. And by the rest, I mean the second guessing, the imposter syndrome, the guilt, when I think about 6 months ago when I did this project, I made this one error. Don't do any of that. Throw all that away. That's what you leave behind. You leave behind questioning what you could have done differently. And you move forward knowing this change is teaching me something and it's for something. Mm-hmm. I don't know what yet. And that's going to come when it's meant to come. But for now, do not add any suffering to yourself by trying to go over and over in your mind what you could have done differently, because there isn't anything you could have or should have done differently. You were doing exactly what you're meant to be doing at exactly the time you're meant to be doing it. And I'm incredibly grateful that I had that knowing and just was able to ground myself in that, because 10 years ago, I would still be spiraling today. I would still be going over and over who, what, when, where, why, going over and really put myself in a space of suffering when there's no reason to be in that space. And it's not that layoffs are not jarring, and also huge shifts and changes. Definitely went through that and have not jumped and leapt into a new, corporate full-time employee position. What I did then, one of the lessons that I took and one of the messages that I received was, this is the time. This is the time for you to launch your consulting business. This is the time for you to let your light shine. This is the time for you to tune in to all of the feedback you've gotten from every single job you've ever had about your impact on people. This is the time for you to go on your freedom journey. This is the time for you to speak up and say what you want to say, how you want to say it. And this is your ability to help so many different companies and organizations and institutions with my light, as opposed to it being just pigeonholed into one. Not that that is a bad thing. I did it for years, but that was one of the things that I pulled from it. I really was like, what is it that I'm learning from this? And what are the possibilities? And the funny part was anyone that I told. So I announced the launch of my consulting business a smooth week ago. So I say, we're fresh out the box. We're fresh out the box. Mm-hmm. But, before that process, and as I was working on, my website and all the things, there were, intimate circle friends who were aware of what was happening. And when I shared it, not one person was like, oh my goodness, I am so sorry. What are you going to do, girl? Oh my goodness, I can't. Oh, girl, woo, woo. What is it? They were like, okay, so we can go ahead and just say that, this doesn't feel positive right now, but congratulations, way to go. Yes, you, I'm so excited. This is going to be great. This is me like, a smooth day later, like still trying to process. And I'm getting this feedback of congratulations and excitement and just positive energy being poured into me. That was so beautiful, because it reminded me again that change is an opportunity. And even if it's an opportunity that seems very scary, if it's an opportunity that's unknown, because I have never been an entrepreneur before, am I amazing at what I do? Absolutely. But do I know how to be an entrepreneur? No, but I can learn. I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn how to do this beautiful journey of freedom, because time is something that I am always wanting to be wealthy in. And I have this opportunity to be a time wealthy person and to be someone who is able to choose, who I work with, how I work with them, all of these things. And so even though, again, I don't have the myriad of experience of being an entrepreneur for 20 years, I do have more than 39 years of change and of adaptation and of flexibility and connection and all of these different things. And so in the midst of all that to say, that is the change that has been happening in my life and in the midst in what I'm literally in the middle of. And so I would definitely say that I definitely had to employ some of those lessons that I'm talking about change and saying, look at the opportunity that you have, because perspective is so important. Perspective will change your life. When you, and I know people have that analogy of look at the glass half empty or half full, but really looking at a situation and saying, what do I have to be grateful in this? What am I learning? Because there's always something to be grateful in. I am grateful that I had the opportunity to get the rich experiences that I've had at every job that I've had, because that is how I built my skills. I'm grateful that I was able to depart on good terms, with this employer. I'm grateful that I have a community and like folks surrounding me who are actively cheering me on and who are believing in me, even in the moments where I'm challenged to believe in myself. I am actively grateful to be a time wealthy person and show up for my family and my friends and my loved ones in ways that I haven't been able to before. I'm actively grateful to have the time to have slow mornings when I want to. I'm actively grateful to say I want to go take a walk down a trail in nature at 2 p.m. because I need to go ahead and do a tree bath, a nature bath, and just take in good old, oxygen. It is beautiful to look at those things as opposed to a fear and scarcity and lack mindset that would have me spiraling into a space that is not healthy and would not serve me or anyone else well.
Totally. And if you're listening and you have people like that in your life, you can love them, but you might need to scoot them to the side for a little while until you get strong enough to be in this space to think about the perspective, be grateful for like the things that have happened as a result of the thing that you may have lost. Think about what the gift is in losing that thing. But yeah, if there are people who are like scarcity mindset, fear, all the things, no. I love you, but you need to scoot on over here.
I need to love you from a distance. And this is a boundary that we don't talk about this, because that is such a thief of joy, is someone looping you into their scarcity and lack mindset. And it also is okay. Like, this is no like shaming anyone who has a scarcity mindset, because we've all had it at one point in time. That's how the system works, right? It creates a fear of lack and scarcity. So we stay in systems that we believe are secure and we stay in that place. But being able to unlearn that and understand that there is no scarcity, there is room for everybody and everything, and to realize that you do have the resources, brilliance, capability within yourself to do the thing. And for me, the push to do the thing was a smooth elimination of my role. It was very clear. For others, it may not be, that big of I can't say it's a gentle nudge. It was definitely a bit of a shove, but a shove with love. And I say that a shove with love from my spirit court, the universe, God, all the energies that are around me. It was definitely a shove with love. But it was a shove with love that was going to push me to be like, okay, I'm gonna do the thing, and I'm gonna see what happens, and I'm gonna lean into change and the opportunity that it is, and we're gonna see how this grows and goes. And then cuckoo cuckoo, here I am talking about embracing change as liberation on We Ain't Dying for This. Okay, so it all comes full circle. It all comes full circle.
It all came together, and I love it. I love it. So I think that a lot of folks can probably relate and resonate to your story, just because, as you mentioned before, there has been so much going on in the landscape of careers in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, there are people out here who have been looking for new roles for over a year. So it's real. So I know that there's someone, at least one person, who can take something away from what you just said. But I happen to know that you have a few more pieces of advice to share with anyone else who's listening and they want like something that feels a little bit more tangible that they might be able to hold on to when it comes to change, if they're in the midst of change right now.
Absolutely. So I do love leaving some gems. And again, My sincere hope is that this reaches exactly who it is meant to reach, to be able to pour into you and nourish you in your own transitions. Um, so I have three main things, but we'll chat, so it might expand into a few more. But the first one is going to be, quite honestly, the art of surrender. The art of surrender is something that I advise us to learn. And when I say the art of surrender, I mean the actual prospect of you surrendering to what is so you can let it be.
Yeah.
So instead of fighting against it, trying to figure it all out, wondering, trying to go into the future and see things and then looking back at the past to figure out, be present and surrender to what is, knowing that what is exactly as it's meant to be. And that really is for our own personal peace, because when you surrender, you're able to flow. And in true analogy form, I am a water lover, water being, all the things. And when I think about ebbs and flows, when I think about when you're at the ocean, you're looking at the tide and the waves coming in, they come in and then they recede. They come in and they recede. Certain points of the day, they come in further. Other points of the day, they're further back. And there's always that ebb and flow that happens. And anytime, if you've also been in the ocean before, that you try to fight against that ebb and flow, it can be a bit of a tumultuous experience. And there's a reason why people tell you when you're in water to just relax your body and float and allow the ebbs and flows to happen. And so when it comes to change, surrender is one of the biggest pieces of advice I could ever give anyone, is to learn how to surrender so that you can ride those ebbs and flows, because that is part of life. There are going to be ebbs and there's going to be flows. And being able to find a place of grounding in surrender and knowing not to be afraid of the unknown, because that's always, none of us know the future. So there's always the aspect of the unknown. And learning to surrender to knowing what you know and being okay with what you don't know and being perfectly present in where you are. So I would certainly say a piece of advice number one is to learn the art of surrender, which also is a journey in and of itself, because we are definitely in a society that tells you everything will be okay if you have everything in your control. If you can control everything, everything will be all right. It is a lie, okay? They have lied to us because we don't have control over any of this. If we did, we wouldn't be where we are currently today. And that can go into all different types of areas. Take that how you will. But
100%.
go ahead.
So I said 100%, and I wanted to say something about your ebb and flow comment. So, Kristen, I can't swim, girl.
Okay.
I can't swim. And
It's
when you said that, I thought about like when I have tried to float and how I'm like, no, I'm gonna drown. Like like I'm just trying not to die.
Right.
Just trying not to die. But I feel like it just called me out in a way that like I'd never thought about before. Cause I'm like, okay, when I am in the water, I'm terrified because I'm like, I'm going to drown because I can't drink all of this water. And my dad says that actually, which is hilarious. Like your parents that you just like take along with you in your life. But now I'm like, okay, the next time I'm in the water, I'm gonna hear your voice say surrender to the ebbs and the flows, girl. I'll let you know how it goes.
Please do. And you can do that in shallow water too. I just want to point that out. You can.
It's water that I can stand in, but I'm still scared.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's okay. Yes, surrender to the ebbs and the flow. It is going to serve you beautifully well when you learn how to do that, because you do not have control over everything. You can control how you react to things. That you do have control over. You can control your perspective. You can control how you react to things and how you then move with the information and the data that you have. That you have control over. But everything else, we don't have control over that. So being able to let go of that control and let go of it and let things flow will do absolute wonders for you as you navigate the change. And then I would say, secondly, which a bit likens probably to just what a lot of us are feeling now. I mean, it is not, lost on anyone. I'm sure that we are in incredibly tumultuous times. And what I often describe as it feels very chaotic. Life feels very chaotic on a macro level, and for me, at least, on a micro level, right? Like all the changes I was talking about with relocation and the role being eliminated and launching my business as a first time entrepreneur and all of these things, it feels very chaotic. And that's because it is. And what I would say in terms of what to do with that chaos and change is to remember to work with the chaos and to not be afraid of chaos. Because when I really think about it, my purview and one of the viewpoints that I have, and one of the firm beliefs that I have is where chaos is where creation happens. When you think about how much of what's in nature, what's in space, what's in the universe, everything that is birthed, when it comes to how we come to be in the world, birth happens in chaos. Creation happens in chaos. It is a matter of all these swirling pieces and parts coming together to make sense of something. But birth happens and creation only happens in chaos. And so when we look at these circumstances of in our, we'll take it to the micro level in our personal lives, and there's so much chaos happening and there's so much uncertainty and all these different things are happening, I reminded myself something is going to be birthed here. Yes, there is beauty in the chaos. Thank you, Brittany. Yes, there is beauty in the chaos. There's something beautiful is going to be birthed here, and it can be. Now, also, that doesn't always have to happen if you don't allow it to, right? If you don't surrender and allow yourself to find the ways in which you can create in the chaos, then it really just is that. It feels just extremely chaotic and uncertain and intimidating and overwhelming and all of these things. And so one of the mechanisms and one of the pieces of advice that I gave to myself was just reminding myself, you are in the midst of chaos. What can you create in this? And that doesn't have to be something like a business or, some new product. It can literally be, what can I create in this? I can create calm. I can create a practice of rituals in the morning and routines in the morning and rituals with myself that pour into me in a deep way of self-love. I can create regular check-ins with those that I love so I can pour into them and they can pour into me. I can create a great meal plan for myself because I, didn't really necessarily pay attention to my nutrition when I was going. This is what I can create. I can create new habits in this. I can create healthy coping mechanisms in this. Like, you don't have to think about it from this huge grand scale. It can be, what can I do every day? What can I create in this? And then what you create in that can then become something that is now not only a habit, but a way of life for you as you navigate through the chaos. So I definitely am, a fan of chaos in that way, in the sense of like, what you can birth in it, because it really is a catalyst for change. In and of itself, chaos is a catalyst for change. And so being in whatever that change is up to you what that change is and what that looks like. But chaos is in and of itself is a catalyst for change, because that is what you can then create. You're going to be creating in that chaos. And so I would also leave that note. And then finally, but I'm going to pause. Is there anything you wanted to add? No.
You saw me take out my...
I
did. Where creation happens.
Yes. And then finally, I would say that in addition to chaos being a catalyst for change and chaos being where creation happens, in addition to ensuring that you learn how to surrender to the, learn the art of surrender and surrender to the ebb and the flow, I would say also get to some unlearning. Get to some unlearning. And when I say get to some unlearning, I mean get to a point where you are unlearning everything that you adopted about, whether it's about how you feel about yourself, whether it's about what you think about your capabilities, whether it's about what you think are limitations that are not, whatever it may be that was told to you and given to you. get to some unlearning of those things and learn it for yourself.
Mhm.
Start to do that hard work, some of that shadow work, some of that hard work of taking a good hard look at the beliefs you have and the mantras you have and the yes, decolonization, yes, Dan, about the beliefs you've had and what has been fed to you and what has been told to you by society or family members or friends or past relationships, you name it, what's been told to you, and unlearn those things that you actually don't believe or actually aren't even proven. Who gets to tell you what your limitations are?
Yeah.
Who gets to tell you that you can only be this or only be that or only do this or only do that? Who says you have to stay in the same career for 20 years? Maybe you want to switch it up and do something different halfway through. Who says you can't turn a hobby into an additional stream of, who says any of those things? If you haven't given it to yourself from a space of assuredness and love and certainty, get to unlearning so that you can create space to learn new things about yourself and about your capabilities and the fact that your life is literally limitless. Get to unlearning so you can create space to learn new things, and actually the information that you then have in your mind and what you tell yourself and the beliefs that you have are ones that you actually believe and that you actually have sat with and researched and gone into and really understood, actually, this is what I believe and this is how I feel and this is who I am. So I would say get to unlearning all those things that don't belong to you and things that we have learned through the society that we live in, through supremacy culture, through colonization, through, right? Like all those things, what society has told us, whether it be, of course, what society has told those of us who belong to, historically marginalized communities. Unlearn all of those things. The idea that there is some finite pie that everyone is trying to vie for a small little sliver because there's not enough for everybody. No, unlearn all of that so you
1,000%.
can create space to learn some new things and then move according to the truths and beliefs that are actually yours. And so I would say that. Those are my 3 pieces.
So much because we have been taught so many things, whether it's because someone directly told us, because we're looking at somebody else's situation and we're like, well, if they can only get this far, then I know I can only do this.
Mhm.
Or, it must be better candidates that they're talking to, like whatever it is that you're telling yourself. But
Mhm.
it may be something that is subconscious. So
Absolutely.
it is important to interrogate the things that you believe, especially if those things are limiting.
Exactly. And, we've been, fed information our entire lives. Like you said, whether through people, through media, through representation in media, through what we see, who can be what, where, and how in movies, television shows, all of those things. It all has limited our own personal beliefs, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, I mean, because again, there was a time, and we're still working to continue to eradicate that. But there was a time when, every single time a Black woman got a role in Hollywood, you were somebody's caretaker, somebody's maid, somebody's mammy, somebody's something. And so for a long time, it's like, oh, that's all. That's the entirety of Black women. That's the entirety of who they can be. It's entirely of what we represent. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And so when we think about these tropes, these stereotypes, and these different things that have been fed to us, we absolutely subconsciously take it in. Like, oh, okay, well, this person, is the one person who made it into this position, and we both belong to the same marginalized community. So that's the one seat at the table, child. That's it. I can't get there because they done already did that. No, that's not true. That is absolutely not true. Like who told you that?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's an easy journey to get there, but I am saying that that's not the truth. It doesn't have to be the truth.
Yeah.
So again, just really unlearning so much. And even that process of unlearning, that is some work too, because you don't realize how much you have started to believe of what's been fed to you until you start to unlearn some of the things. Why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
Why do I think that? I mean, how does that even work? I mean, even when I was going through the process of being like, okay, am I gonna start my own business, or am I going to, just, pursue like full-time roles. And I was like, looking around, I'm like, oh my gosh, like at this point, there are so many DEI consultants in the world at this point, I mean, every other profile, it's like, okay, wow, there's so many. Is there enough room for me? Is there enough room for what I bring? And so having to unlearn this idea that any space is too crowded, right? So, I can do traditional DEI consulting. And also I have some special sauce because I'm a communications and PR professional. So let me go ahead and help you with all of this because y'all gonna need some comms help. So how do we blend the two? How do we get to strategic? How do I then tap into what is very unique about me and cancel out all the noise? So
yeah. Absolutely. And I mean your light as well. So I mean your experience, yes, you got it. You got the juice. But you are also just a special person in general. So people will be drawn to your light.
I receive that. Thank you so much.
I know it. So I think you already kind of talked about like how people can work with you, where they can find you online. What you want to say before you want me to tell you what I learned from this episode, my 3 lessons? Because we like working in threes.
You love working in threes. I mean, I can tell folks how to get in touch with me. Okay. Actually, let's start with the lessons. I like the lessons because that clack and pen really motivated me as I was talking.
Okay. Let's go back and read my writing, child. Let me see. Change is a naturally occurring event. That was one of the big lessons. There were lots of big lessons, but these are the 3 that I was like, write this down.
Yes.
The second is take the gems and leave the rest. You don't need to take everything. Like everything is not for you. You can give it back.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I remember as I was coming up like early in my career where I would I would interview for roles at this company that I was at and I would never get the job. And they would be like, oh my God, Crystle, like you're doing amazing. There's nothing you could have done differently. Just be patient. I didn't take that be patient because you know what? I got up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
What I took was, oh, you're amazing. There's nothing else you could have done differently. But that be patient stuff, no, you keep that.
You can keep it. You took the gems. You took the gems and you've got to do, yes.
Got up out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Thing is, chaos is where creation happens. Yeah. Those are 3 strong lessons. There were a lot of lessons, but those were pin clicking worthy.
I noticed. I heard the pen clicking. I am so glad. Yes, it did. Yes, Leandra, it did. It motivated me. Okay, that clack and pen, it did it for me. I'm just so grateful that there were, gems that resonated for you and the lessons you walked away with. And my sincere hope is that everyone who is currently tuning in and all those who will tune in are able to take lessons for yourselves. They can be the same lessons, different lessons. But my sincere hope is that there are some that pour into you and nourish you and motivate you to keep going because your light is needed. Your light, your energy, your gifts, your offerings, they are needed. So absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, how can people work with you, girl?
Oh, yes. Okay. Right. That was the second part. So, okay. So how can people work with me? So one of the best ways to get in contact with me is LinkedIn. And so my LinkedIn profile, you can find me, Christen Smiley, but definitely spell it with the Christen with a Christen. There's not too many Smileys on LinkedIn, so I'll be pretty easy to find. My profile picture looks exactly like the picture that's on this event. You can feel free and connect with me on LinkedIn, message me on LinkedIn. I am active on LinkedIn, so if you see a post that resonates with you, feel free and connect with me in the comments, the chats. Feel free just to create community. Another great way is to visit my website as well, which is www.lunarworksconsulting.com. That is also something that you can find on my website as well. It's easy just to go down to my experience, click on that little icon. It's going to take you right to the website. There are a myriad of different ways to be able to book a call with me. and be able just to connect. I also have meet and greet options. It doesn't always have to be something that is immediately transactional. I love meeting new people, expanding my network. So my website, my LinkedIn page, and then also my company will also have, and my company does also have social media handles as well. If you're an IG or a TikTok person, and I'm going to be honest, I just created them. So content is coming. But if you want to be one of the early adopters, okay, to get it fresh off the press, you can find me on Instagram and or TikTok as the DEI publicist, because that in of itself is who I am. I'm Christen Smiley, the DEI publicist, because DEI needs a smooth publicist right now. Okay, our good sis DEI is going through it. And getting a whole bad rap. So I am the DEI publicist, and that certainly connects around those of you who are within DEI, who are looking to learn more about messaging, communication, strategy around that. Absolutely. So you can find me on social media via those handles as well.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Girl, listen, Christen isn't going to say this, but I'm going to say this.
What?
Christen is also here for DEI practitioners who need to better position themselves online.
I am.
I just want to put that out there. She's here as well.
I am. If you are, and this is what sisterhood is, okay? So yes, I am not always the best at saying all the things. So thank you for stepping in the, okay, you better bridge the gap. I am also here for DEI practitioners who need help positioning and branding yourself within your organizations and or within your consulting businesses. Because again, I have that PR and comms background, but even beyond that, there are so many of us that work in DEI that when we're not attached to a company, we all of a sudden think we don't then have any value, or we don't attach all of the work that we did in those companies to ourselves. Let me tell you, sweet dear, you are the brand. You are the brilliance. You are the brains. You are the strategist. And it is okay, because just because you detach from a company, all of that brilliance goes with you. Okay? I'm going to say that one more time. Just because you detach from a company, all of that brilliance, all of that insight, all of those lessons, they go with you. And so if you do need assistance in positioning yourself around that, and positioning yourself in your organization as a thought leader, as a speaker, as someone to engage with beyond fixing and plugging one hole here and one hole there, if you need help with that and how to expand and really become an influencer across a myriad of departments, I have deep experience in that, and I'm happy to help you as well. Yes, period, with the T. It's not real, it doesn't have the T.
You don't need any help because you just you got it. I don't know what else to say. That's it. But I really enjoyed this conversation with you. Like, I mean, it's just like our conversation from the other night. Like,
exactly. Because like there's more people in it. But outside of that, yeah.
I love it. I'm also like a little annoyed that you left Atlanta, because there is a secret that I have to share with people.
Oh my God. Don't you know? I know you not. Okay, let me go ahead. What's the secret?
So everyone loves We Ain't Dying for This, right?
And
you know that I do retreats, but I also do pop-up events as well, kickbacks. So there is going to be a We Ain't Dying for This live in Atlanta.
Stop.
On June 22nd. And I'll be sharing more information about that soon, but I'm going to be partnering with my new friend, Lauren DK from Harmona Inclusive Wellbeing. So if y'all are not following, follow Christen first. Christen Smiley, follow Christen. And then also follow Lauren DK, because we're going to be together in Atlanta on June 22nd, live for We Ain't Dying for This. And it's going to be great.
Okay, I'm going to text you about this. Okay, because you know what? Atlanta ain't that far. It's just a drive. Okay, don't get it twisted. It is just a drive. Okay.
Looking forward
to exciting.
Far too long.
That is so exciting. Oh my goodness, that's going to be amazing. That's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
The other wild thing I think you said when you said chaos is where creation happens. All of the chaos that's been going on in my life recently, I feel like it did birth this live. We Ain't Dying for This live. Like I started We Ain't Dying for This in February. This is our third month recording these episodes. When I initially started, I was like, I don't want to feel too committed. So
Right.
I'll just say that the episode is 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes. I don't want to do too much. I was like, it's not, I don't know how people are going to resonate with it. I was like, I'm just 30 minutes. Every episode that I've done has been like almost an hour. And my VA actually is funny because Dan was like, Crystle need a VA. I have a VA, a new one. She's been with me for a couple of weeks. She's amazing. My VA was like, so you 30 minutes? None of the episodes 30 minutes. I was like, I guess you're right. I was like, I'll just make it an hour. Those are the types of people you need in your life to hold you accountable and call you out, because
Yes.
she really called me out like, girl, no, an hour. But I just, because of all the things, I was like, oh, I'm trying to plan this retreat. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. I don't really have time to do any live events. But seeing how people have resonated with the content on We Ain't Dying for This, I'm like, oh, let's put the two together. Let's do a live event and We Ain't Dying for This at the same time. And that chaos is what did birth that idea. So see, these gems.
I love it so much.
Come through. And
Yes.
then near Sandy Springs. I don't know. It's in Marietta. Is that near Sandy Springs?
It's not too far from Sandy Springs.
Okay.
It's not too
Everything just seems like it's far away from each other, but I guess it's the traffic.
It's the traffic and whether it's ITP or OTP, in the perimeter, outside the perimeter. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
But people can definitely get to Marietta from Sandy Springs.
Yes, I will be around. I will be around June 22nd. We'll share more information soon, but thank you to everyone who has joined us either on Team Live or Team Replay tonight. We will see you. I will see you next week for the next episode, which is going to be Happiness as Liberation, Christy Rutherford. So really looking forward to next week's conversation, and y'all have a good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful night.